them, but I think these stories are worth sharing. I saw somebody else comment on one of your posts and they were like, well, if you lived this life and you're back here, how come you aren't rich? I'm sure you get that question a lot. How do you answer
all the
that?
time, all the time. And it's like, it's a little irritating to me. And the reason why is because it's like, you guys think about everything. This is a worldly possession. Like, if something happens, I'm not going to be able to take any of this away, but this spiritual, I feel like it was like a spiritual gain. So maybe not financial, but a spiritual gain. And so I'd rather have my spirit be fed or to experience, because like I said, I believe it's so that I could be on the path I am with spirituality. I needed that. And another thing I say, maybe we do this all the time. And the glitch, because you know what they say is a glitch in the matrix. Maybe the glitch was that I remembered it, you know? Not saying that this doesn't happen with everyone. Maybe it happens all the time. We just don't remember it. But the glitch is I really remember it, you know? And that's where it's like, okay. And a lot of people say, like, I had a lot of people ask me, do you think you have an ability or something? You know, I tell them, I don't feel like I'm any different or special than anyone else. If it could happen to me, it could happen to anyone. I didn't do anything special for it to happen. Um, I don't feel like I'm, anything different than anyone else. I just think that I probably wasn't supposed to remember this. And it's like, oh, the universe forgot to do a factory reset.
That is a good point. When you said that, my eyes lit up. I'm like, yeah, maybe it happens all the time, potentially, but we're not supposed to remember. I mean, even the concept of reincarnation, for example, people, I don't know if you believe in that concept. I think that that concept it rings true to me. I can never prove it, but just from hearing near-death experiences, just from hearing people or children who can remember their past life and they give details and people look up these people that they've never met on like a different side of the world and they can verify like, oh, this person actually existed and actually they just died last year. How would this child who is 5 years old in America know about this person in India? You know what I mean? So I think there's some truth to it. So even the concept of reincarnation, of like coming back, and a lot of us forget that we lived all these different lives before. I think you could, that sounds like a probable thing where it probably happens often, but then you just happen to remember that
Yeah.
something is different. Like you shifted some sort of reality, because people talk about the concept of the soul and the higher self and how we are living multiple lives in multiple realities, multiple versions of ourselves, and sometimes in the same body and sometimes in other bodies all at once. Like when we talk about the concept of time, like everything is happening at the same time. So I'm also
Mhm.
thinking maybe, you know, the 10-year-old version of yourself was probably happening at the same time of the 23-year-old version of yourself, right? Because yeah, with the concept of everything's always happening at once, we think we're getting
Mhm.
older or like we're just being born, but everything is at the same time. So like you said, maybe it could be a situation where you jumped into a parallel reality where you were still 10 at the time you were 23.
Mhm.
Again, so many things there, which I find interesting. And to your point, like it's not about coming back and getting rich. It's the spiritual part of it. And maybe you were supposed to remember as well in order to start waking people up to the idea of the world and the reality that we actually live in. And like the way we think the world operates might not really be the way it operates. I know I've been talking, so you can respond to anything I've been saying.
Oh, no, no, no. I agree with you 100%. That's why I tell everyone, I think the reason why this happened to me is so I can help awaken other people or awake something within people. All the time I hear, I don't know why, but your story gave me chills. I don't know why, but I felt something. You said something awake. They say the same words. Something awakened in me when you told your story. Or some people like you hit a memory or you unlocked something in me. And not a lot of my friends, but a few of my friends, they were like true Jehovah Witnesses, right? And they thought I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when I started going through my spiritual awakening. And she would say like, but I didn't want to overdo it. You don't want to overdo it, so I would just leave like little breadcrumbs, like okay, something to make her think about. All of a sudden, she's checking it out. She comes back, talks to me about, okay, well, leave another little breadcrumb. And she tells me all the time, Michelle, you sparked my spiritual awakening, and if that's what I'm here for, then that's even greater, you know. And that's why I think some people like I feel like I was kind of bold to go out and tell my story, you know. Especially like you said, there's no gain from this, besides people saying I'm schizophrenic and calling me crazy. But besides that, it's like, but I'm smart. The people who are supposed to get something from this, they are. And that's why I used to get so irritated, because it is my story and I'm sensitive about it because it really happened to me. And, some people go on there and they make jokes or say how crazy I am, but it's like, this really happened to me, like this might be funny and games to you, but to me, I take this really serious. But then it was like, stop worrying about the negative, because I have a mass of so many positive, saying so many great things. And the only thing I tell those people, then this isn't for you, but who it's intended for, it's happening for. And when you said, like, the time, the future, present, and past, all that is happening at one time, I believe that same thing too. And so while my 10-year-old self is still doing whatever she's doing, I'm here right now on a podcast with you. And also, I believe when we say something like, if it's a decision, say like you sent me saying, hey, you want to be on the podcast? One of me said yes, another me might have said no. And so then there's me that said no, that's going on that no timeline. And there's me right now that's in this yes timeline. And I also believe that we can hop and find that yes, when maybe we didn't go to college, but one day we did go to college, and I need to tap into that yes of me being on the college. So I believe that we can hop timelines, um, and which is something I feel like we're learning more and more about, and it's something I try to look in myself, like, okay, because I do read a lot and I do try to figure out things, but some things I look within and I go inside and I see, like, okay, what is my inner self, or what is my spirit team, or what are my guides telling me that I feel like this would, this is what I should do. So yeah.
I agree with you. There's so many things that you've said over the podcast now that has really resonated with me. And sometimes there's this recent thing that's been happening to me that when something really resonates with me or something rings through, I get goosebumps, like the hairs on my arms kind of rise up. I don't know what that new thing is. Maybe, I mean, I like it, right? Because it's kind of like a yes, no type of thing.
Mhm.
But the part about like your spirituality and your spiritual awakening, I think religion plays a big part for a lot of people in this world. And I think I'm not the type of person that thinks something's 100% good or 100% bad. I think most things in this world start off with good intentions, and I think religion is powerful, right? I think we're all looking for something to give us meaning in this world, and for a lot of people religion gives them meaning. But I do think that sometimes with religion or even education, sometimes I think we get put in a box, right? And anyone that thinks outside of that box could be like demonized or called crazy or schizophrenic, like you said. And um, so I just want to talk about that a little bit more. Like, I just want to get your personal thoughts on religion, because I know that you grew up in a very, religious household and stuff like that. Granted, you have a good community of people who, whether they agree with you or they don't agree with you, they're still like love there and they hold space for you. So I think you're very lucky. But I just want to know if you have any insights on religion and if you think that might potentially be stunting people's awareness of these larger than life concepts that really affect us every single day.
Yes, I feel like a lot of times that religion was used as a weapon more so than as like shackles, pretty much. And we're going to go back to slavery. They never wanted us to read books, right? But why would they give us a Bible to read? And in that same Bible, it says that, you should, slaves, you should be obedient to your master. So am I saying that the Bible's incorrect? No, but what I'm saying is it's been edited so many times by Kings James, and so many things that's been taken out there. All the books aren't even there, so we're not even looking at the original Bible. And I feel like a lot of it has been used as a weapon towards us, kind of as a brainwashing mechanism to believe what they wanted us to believe. Because I don't, and not even they. I'm not even saying this as a color thing, but this is just me going back into history. But I do feel like spirituality is starting to become something that more people are opening up to. I feel like it's like a veil that's kind of being released. And I feel like the walls of the church are kind of collapsing a little bit, which it might be something that needs to be done. A lot of people are seeing like religion as like money, making money, like the pastors and things. And like I said on my page, why I question God is because I need to be with someone who's authentic. I have to have an authentic person in front of me. If I can't come to you and you can't come to me, even as a pastor, you're a human as well as I'm a human. If you can't tell me, hey, I'm struggling, like, hey, like just for example, I'm looking at pornography or something like that. If you can't come, you're coming, we're coming not as ourselves. We all come and we're getting dressed and we're clapping and we're having a good time and we're feeling the word and we're going to go home. And then what? we're no longer in that sermon, and this is real life. And that's what I learned. I was masking a lot, and it made me more of a, I didn't have the boundaries. I felt like religion didn't give me the boundaries that I have now. But once again, like you made a really good point, there's good and bad in anything. So there's good. I'm not saying that all church people are bad, or every uh every religion is bad neither, but too much of anything is not good. Even if spirituality, you've seen people have come into spiritual psychosis. You know, hate to bring up people, but you know that lady who just unalived her kids and her guy, and then ran into a, it's too much. And there's good and bad in everything. So it's what you tap into. Same thing with church. Some people go to church and they do the worst things inside of that church, launder money, play with kids, do all kind of things that they shouldn't do. And then there's some that aren't. So that's in anything. Too much of something, too much of anything is, with no balance there. You have to know a balance. And I feel like that's why you have to ground yourself and make sure that you're centered, because if you can go off the deep end, there is a deep end. There is a rabbit hole where you're not going to see yourself come back from. And so I always tell people, you know, use your understanding, inner understanding, and to ground yourselves. And um always, but always ground yourself, especially if you're going to do astral projection or anything. Make sure you ground yourself to the earth, and you have protection, and you put a shield of protection around yourself, because it can be a scary place, and there are other things out there, lower entities, lower vibrational things that you just don't want to, you know, come across. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on both ends of the spectrum, whether you consider yourself more religious than spiritual. I think everyone is spiritual because if you're communing with God and trying to build a relationship with God, whether it's through the church and the Bible or the Quran or whatever, verse, or like if you're doing more shamanistic rituals or whatever. I think everyone is technically spiritual, but you know what I'm trying to say. I think, yeah, you're right. There's a deep end with a lot of things. I think with astral projection, like you said, you want to protect yourself, right? The more I'm a hyper curious person, so I'm constantly asking questions and questioning things. And I'm also, like you said, looking into my inner self, right? How does this resonate with my heart, right? When I talk to God, I'm always kind of envisioning myself in surrounded by a ball of light, right? As protection. Because like you said, they're lower vibrational entities and some things might appear to be genuine and good, and you interact with that thing, and if you're not protective over yourself, or if you're not aware, if you don't ease into certain things, you could be taken advantage of, especially in the spiritual community. Because like you said, that woman who unalived herself, unfortunately, who was very deep into astrology, and some people who were going really deep into spirituality and then running all the way back to the church after experiencing some maybe low vibrational entities. And again, so I think there needs to be caution everywhere, but I also think people need to be open-minded and continue to ask questions and do
Mhm.
that inner work. I think what you said about not having a third party be the person between talk helping you talk to God, I think we can all kind of develop that closeness to God, to the divine. And if we have any questions about our life, with practice, we can get those questions directly to us. Of course, God speaks through people, but I think the person God speaks to the most is us if we're able to kind of, listen to that. Something else I want to touch on, I don't know if you've been seeing it on TikTok a lot, but people have been talking about this idea of shifting. It just like came up on my feed, I would say in the last couple of weeks, where people say like, oh, they pictured themselves in a different reality. um, they envision themselves like they have a family and kids in one reality, and they shift back and forth from realities. And I want to get your perspective on that, because when we talk about like the deep end of some of these things, to me it seems a little scary if I were to wake up right now. Like I had this conversation with you and I wake up and or I go to bed later tonight and I wake up in my 15-year-old body. That would be very trippy, right? And so with some of these things that people are exploring or potentially playing with, what are your thoughts on people actively trying to shift? Um, do you think I don't know if you think it's good or bad, but just I guess what are your thoughts? I'll just stop
I
there.
always, I always tell people, be careful, because and they say, "Oh, you woke up 10 again." I would love that, and it's like it was. I think the way that it came upon me was a lot easier than it could have been, because I thought I was dreaming. If I thought that was like real, it probably would have hit me hard, and I don't know where I could have spiraled to. I wouldn't want to shift so much. I understand maybe shifting to a better timeline where you're more established or something like that. I get that, but going back and forth, I don't think I would want to go back and forth. I feel like I would get confused. I feel like may get lost, and it's just like you keep going from here to there. And then, like I tell people all the time, everyone says, "Are you afraid that it'll happen again?" I said, "No, that's not what I'm afraid of. What I'm afraid of is waking up and being like 83 and wrinkled after, and I went to bed like in my 30s, and now my hips hurt for a reason because my hips do be hurting on their own, but for a real reason, like that sounds more scary to me. So I wouldn't want to purposely do it, and I don't even know if I can purposely do it. But I would like to be able to like maybe shift like where I have like maybe a Porsche or a mansion. Like, okay, we can go there and maybe stay there, with my kids. But I don't think I would want to go back and forth. It's just too confusing. And what if I mess up something and next thing you know, like I have like a missing tooth when I wake up again from my other, like you don't know. There's nothing wrong with missing tooth, but I'm just giving an example.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think, my brain goes on the deep end, right? Like, because you could have a reality where maybe we don't even shift to a different age. Maybe I shift to a version of Jumi that's the same age right now, and I have all these things, but maybe certain people aren't necessarily in my life, and that could be like a shock to my system. So I think it's one of those things I'm still like doing research into, but my initial thoughts is just like to your point of just being careful about shifting, right? Because some people have come out and say, like, if you want to shift, I shifted in 6 months and this is exactly how I did it. Like, I'm not in the same reality, this, and that. And again, I think with a lot of things in this world, we don't always know what we're playing with, right? I'm not the person that subscribes to, oh, this is the devil's work. This is I don't like to be in the fear frequency, but I do also understand that there are things in this world that we don't understand. So sometimes we need to be very careful with what we're, playing with, because I think every time that we are jumping or opening ourselves in a psychic way, I think we're not just opening ourselves up for ourselves. I think other entities could potentially use that as a doorway to open, right? Like to your point that you made earlier with your sister's ex-husband at the time, when that person said like she saw like the devil in him or like this negative entity in him, and people talk about how people are taken over by certain spirits, right? And I'm not saying that people shifting might be taken over by certain spirits, but again, it's just this like word of caution to like a lot of stuff that people dabble in, but that may not be fully aware of the significance or ramifications of what they're doing, because I don't think you would have wanted to come back and relive the stuff that you relived,
Mhm.
um or be in a reality where the colors aren't as bright or the food isn't as well.
you know
Sorry,
Sorry,
go
that
ahead.
makes a lot of sense because like, I feel like this also. We made a pact before we came out here, I believe, that we have what we want to learn, what we want to do. So I don't want to keep shifting. I need to be in the present because I came down here for a reason. I need to make sure I'm getting these lessons spiritually. So if I keep shifting, and I understand it gets boring here. It sucks sometimes. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot going on. There's wars. There are all type of things, and people may just want to get away or may just want to not feel. It's like I understand that, but like don't forget we came down here and we don't want to miss what our purpose is for. And so with me hopping around, like what am I really learning? And if I there's no cheat code to life. So even like you said, yeah, I might have more money, but what about the people around me? And that's really what it's about, the connections. I've seen where people had NDEs, near death experiences, and they're saying they didn't really see anything but like the kind of relationships they had with people. That's what played back. How they made other people feel when they judge people, things of that sort. So if we're hopping around and just trying to do like a cheat code, what are we really getting what we need from it? Like, yeah, you can easily go to a college and know all the course and the outline, but did you really get what you needed? So when it's time for you to move on to be actually in that field, So that's what I always think about it. Like I know I came down here and I made an agreement with my soul family to do what I need to do. So I need to just be in the now. And that's the thing. I feel like we're either trying to be in the past from nostalgia or we're trying to go further, but we don't ever really take the time to just sit around and just sit in now and understand that, okay, I'm here for a reason. This is where I'm supposed to be. I'm where I'm supposed to be, where I need to be here. And if not, I need to make the right adjustments now instead of trying to hop in and take a shortcut.
Oh, that's such an amazing perspective. I agree with you as well. I think we're all here to learn something and have a specific impact. And some of the things we're supposed to learn, unfortunately, come through hardships or difficulties or setbacks that we have in life. And yeah, sometimes life can be mundane, and it would be nice to shift to a reality where, I don't know, I'm eating ice cream all day and not gaining 50 pounds, right? It would be nice to be there. And sometimes, yeah, maybe I might imagine that, but I think you're so right. There's something powerful about being in the present. And I think another reason why your story was so fascinating to me is because I'm always telling my friends, I'm like, oh, I wish I could go back to, sophomore year of college or freshman year of college. Like I would do things so much differently. Like I'd have a different major. I would do all these different things. And then coming across your story, and it's like you experienced life up until 23 and went back and, to 10 years old. I realized, I'm like, oh wow, that must have been very jarring. So be careful what you wish for, especially with the things that you had to kind of like re-experience. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I really want to know, what do you want people, I know we've talked so much about your story, and like we've gone down a couple of different rabbit holes, but what do you want people to take away from your story? Like what do you want the world to really understand from your story and how it really impacted your life?
Love your people while you have them, while they're here. Um, there's way more than meets the eye. I know it sounds like a transformer, but it's really true. Go with your intuition, with your feelings. Don't take my word for it. Ask yourself, does this feel right? And if not, it may not be your turn right now, and that's perfectly fine. Also, try to be more understanding to people who has had different experiences. Try to have a open mind, even if you don't. Like, there's a lot of things that I may not agree with someone on, but I don't judge them as a person. Um, and you never know. You never know what people have been through, and just try to be kinder and nicer to people. And that's pretty much it. That's what I feel like I've learned from this experience, is just that, and just getting my third eye open and navigating through this life differently. Ever since this happened to me, I've navigated through it so much differently. Like, I've lost my grandmothers recently, and it don't feel like a loss. Like, and I was close to them, and it's like it gave me so much more hope to know that if I could move in the universe like that, from one parallel to another parallel, my grandmothers are probably like flying through the universe. Like, it makes it a lot more easier for me. Of course I miss them, but I feel them. And so yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And again, thank you for sharing your story, because I think it takes a lot of courage to admit to this experience, especially in the world that we live in. I think people are becoming more accepting, but people are still going to be people. So I'm happy that you've received a lot of support and it's not just all negative. Have you shifted in perspective on anything recently, to kind of just round up the episode?
I don't believe so. I just feel like, and that's the thing. If I believe, if it happened, I really don't have any knowledge about it. Everything seems the same to me. I've never had like a big shift that I'm like, okay, yeah, why am I light again? Like, why am I jumping out of bed and my knees feel great? Like, I don't have that, but so I don't think I've shifted.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. Where can people find you if they want to follow you on TikTok or just get in contact with you?
Well, I'm on TikTok. I'm Michelle Stacks Doss. There's people who are impersonating me. So make sure I have like 117K followers. So that's how you would know that it's me. I'm trying to get my YouTube up and running, just in case something happens to TikTok. I want to still have that community. So it's also Michelle Stacks Doss also. And I'm just now getting that. It's under construction. So if you see there are some few things on there. It's mostly like funny videos and stuff. But I'm starting to actually turn that into my actual my actual channel. And I'm thinking about, I had a podcast before where I interview people who have experienced the same thing. So I'm thinking about doing that again, but I'm starting this all slow.
Oh yeah, you should. I think we would benefit really well from